Hey everyone, today I'm joined by Thomas Stirling. Thomas is the founder of Stirling Brandworks, which is a creative agency specializing in bold experiential campaigns. His agency Breakup Kit campaign earned some industry awards and opened doors to billion-dollar brands using a mix of humor, direct mail, and high production video content. So I wanted to have Thomas on because agency owners constantly battle cold outreach fatigue, and he has built a campaign that actually cuts through. In this episode, we discuss creating ABM campaigns that get remembered, using humor without losing credibility, scaling creative outreach beyond word of mouth, and more. Lead gen is the hardest part of running an agency. For most, it's unpredictable, it's slow, and it's usually expensive. Gia flips that. It's the all-in-one growth platform that turns your existing relationships and client work into a steady pipeline. Gia automates lead gen, follow-up, and content, and it's all from the work you're already doing. You can check it out and get some free bonuses at getgia.ai/dynamic agency. And now, Thomas Stirling. It's easier than ever to start an agency, but it's only getting harder to stand out and keep it alive. Join me as we explore the strategies agencies are using today to secure a better tomorrow. This is Agency Forward. Thomas, you guys had a pretty successful campaign with this Breakup Kit. I think a lot of agencies would love to hear anything that could drive them, potential awareness, business, anything like that. Let's kick off there.
Awesome.
Tell me about this campaign.
Yeah, well, Chris, first, thanks for having me on the show. Happy to be here. The campaign we're talking about today, really the core insight is it's hard for agencies like Stirling, like any agency, to make it into that aspirational brand, Fortune 100, the billion-dollar brand. Even some mid-markets, it's challenging, right? Cold outreach is really hard. And on the flip side, if you put yourself in the shoes of your audience, the life of a CMO right now is hard. Agency relationships in some cases are strained. Teams are trying to build things, capacity in-house. And so the core insight is there's a ton of relationship here, right? It's a relationship game. And so how do you do a cold outreach when you haven't had a chance to build even a hello? And that's what came from the idea of the agency Breakup Kit campaign. We actually said, all right, well, if there is this sort of sticky, squishy relationship between brands and agencies, and in some cases it's working great, okay, well, we're probably not going to get in there, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's dysfunctional. Sometimes it's like your friend that's in maybe not an abusive relationship, but a relationship where you're like, hey, you should probably get out of that one. And so I think humor is a really powerful tool. It resonates. But what we landed, and I know some people are just listening, but Chris, if you want to, what does this look like? Maybe a size 17 sneaker box?
Yeah. Clown shoes.
So we came up with this direct mail campaign that was also supported with video production, account-based marketing. We picked aspirational accounts, a top 100 list, and we actually mailed this size 17 sneaker box, basically, with everything you need to break up with your sad and underperforming agency or sad and underperforming website. So again, depending on who the audience was, it has a QR code, it directs to a landing page, and there's all this content, even like breakup scripts. So like you picture Words with Friends or like any of those card games, Cards Against Humanity, you flip the card over and there's something you can say. Lines to break up with your agency. And so we said, all right, if we're going to do this, if we're going to go out there to try to reach more mid-market and billion-dollar brands, we need something that is that first hello. And that's going to make them want to actually return a phone call or reach out. And we're not sure which touch point in this omni-channel world that we live. So for some, it was the direct mail experience and them physically opening it. And by the way, the kit has things like an old copy of the VHS copy of You've Got Mail because it's the original tearjerker, right? So internet tearjerker. So it was just, the campaign is absurd. It lives in an absurdity, but it lives in a world where someone's in a bad relationship with their agency partner. And so anything in marketing's right time, right message, the success of this campaign has been, I think, a tremendous awareness and brand builder. And then we have actually gotten into some really nice enterprise accounts. But again, because it was right time, they were in this
Right.
dysfunctional relationship. They felt
Mhm.
the reality of the campaign. And so I think for all of those reasons, it like was a little bit out of the box and in the box. But it's been really tremendous for us.
Yeah, I think what's great about it too is like, so it's initially helped you with some people who were in market looking for another agency and already considering that breakup, but also like it's a full box, right? Full of stuff.
Yeah,
Like it's going to leave an impression on someone regardless.
we did scale the
And so
box.
when,
We did scale the box down when it was really
oh, there you
successful.
go. Yeah, make it a little easier for the postman. Um, but like even the people who aren't in market are now of course, we got a phlegmy throat today. Even the people who aren't in market are are going to remember this, and so when they do start thinking about like leaving their current agency, like they're like, oh yeah, remember that breakup box we got, right? They have something that you can anchor to and go back to, and then they're going to look you up, and as long as you got all those assets, like pointing them to the digital thing to be able to find you, it's like it's a great resource.
Yeah, and
And
I
so,
mean, we went really high production. So I mean, the like 15-second, 30-second commercials, content on our
mhm,
website, a full microsite. We're working on another campaign like this for the agency, and I think the core insight's always like, all right, but how do we go big enough that this is actually like a PR moment and not just
mhm,
something that
right.
might create a little bit of buzz, but not necessarily jump off the page for folks.
Yeah, one of my favorite books of late has been The Experience Economy, and just the idea of like we're moving away from we moved from data to like trust. Now we're moving into it's like if you can create experiences, it's awesome. Actually, I even got a an email from can't remember what they changed the name to. Like Science Says, I'll put a link somewhere. But the is it free experiences are seen as like more valuable than free products, like free trials and stuff, giving things out to people. And so like anytime you can create this an experience, right? Even if it is just like someone opening a box and seeing what's in there and having a laugh, like it is something that they're going to talk about and like a memory has been created through this. Um, right. Remember the time that agency sent us that box and stuff? Like it's I don't know, it has like an oomph to it that's super valuable. So I guess even as you're looking into this next campaign and stuff, what things are you looking at doing like experientially to, my assumption is that you're wanting to outperform your previous campaign. That's generally how people are wired. Like what types of things are you thinking about doing within that?
Well, I think that this Breakup Kit campaign is going to continue to be our brand promise and a little bit of a brand halo for Sterling. Because if we
Mhm.
flip it on its head, it's also our commitment and our brand promise to brands that work with us and partner with us that we're not going to do any of the things that we're. It's a super fine line. We're not here to make fun of other agencies. We're not here to take business from other agencies, but we are here to take business when there's a dysfunction, when things aren't working anymore or where there's a mismatch. And so you have to be like super careful. Like we've won some agency awards um, for this work. And I think it's because it's that like tightrope walk. If it was too out there and if we were really pointing a finger at other agencies and we were kind of putting them down, I think that would be problematic. And also inversely, if we think about this brand halo, it's our commitment, it's our brand promise around what we're going to do to make sure we treat
Mhm.
every first date and every long-term relationship with what's necessary. So with that said, how do I consider like what's next? We're working on creating an adjacent campaign where we're creating a little bit of a universe. I don't want to go too far and share anything until it launches yet, but just
Mhm.
for the life of the CMO. The life of a CMO, average CMO lasts what, 18 to 24 months, and then they're on to their next thing. That's our target audience. That's who we want to work with. We're creating a campaign around like the life of the CMO, how we make the life of the CMO better, how we address and call out what it's like today. So I know that's very high level. When the campaign launches, Chris, I'll share it with you. But again, it's
Yeah.
just creating more affinity, more trust, and more awareness in our target audiences. mind share for Stirling.
Right. I think there is something important in how you're approaching that too, where it's like you're not going to date a guy's wife, but like if the divorce attorneys are already there, it's
Yeah,
like
that's
okay.
right.
Um, but like that's a key differentiator, right? Because like you could still be partnering with some of these agencies and stuff and building up your business that way. But if they're not getting along, it's like the best thing is for us to come in and help everybody. Um, but so I guess as you're looking at these campaigns, what is something you're thinking about in order to make these like fun? I get right, like to just get someone to smile when they see it.
Well, I think humor is something that can come across as a really great first impression for somebody. I think, you were just mentioning a stat, right? There's data that supports that humor actually creates a stronger affinity and it lasts longer. I always like to say, like, if you're doing work, does it pass the sleep test? Do you wake up the next day and you're still thinking about it? If we're presenting a few concepts to a client, which one the next day are they thinking about? Which one are they
Mhm.
still grappling with? And sometimes it's not their first choice. Sometimes it's their second or third choice. But then they realize, wow, this idea really has staying power. Humor is a tool in that. But humor can also be, if it comes across as cheap, if it comes across as not thoughtfully delivered, or if it doesn't push off of a real true insight. So I guess to answer your question, if you're going to use humor, you really have to start with that core insight about like what's going on in your audience's mind, and how do you utilize and play off of that. And so humor, when successful, incredibly powerful. But if it's just jokes for eyeballs and impressions, is that going to really do a business driver? This campaign's been
Mhm.
successful for us because it feels like it really cuts through the noise. I don't think a ton of agencies do a lot of really out of the box advertising. A lot of, and what we've done historically has been like um, pay per click and ads on Meta and all sorts of other things that maybe sometimes are playing it safer and talking about a product or a service offering. So there's white space for creativity and things like that.
Mhm.
For campaigns for clients that use humor, again, it's that tightrope walk to make sure that it's really pushing off something that is pain. If we can find a way to flip something on its head, then I think that's really where the best marketing and advertising comes from.
Right. It's also a great opportunity just to like it shows your personality, right? Your character. Like there it's giving all of these people who've received the box now have some insights into what it would be like to work with you. They're seeing some creativity, how you think, like they're enjoying that humor. Yeah, I think it's like a multifold solution. When you were, what brought on, like, so you said you were running like PPC campaigns, different things like that, but like what kind of inspired the, hey, we need to do something now that's different?
Yeah, well, I think, I know you do some work with agencies, and a lot of agencies sort of struggle with it's like word of mouth, right? And it's
Mhm.
growth in that sort of an organic fashion, right? And so I think every agency in some ways has to grapple with how much is coming organically and how much is coming through your marketing efforts. Sometimes we're the cobblers with the holes in our shoes, and it's like
Yep.
we do great marketing and great advertising and brand building over here, but what about for us? We had some very successful campaigns, but if we really thought about dialing into that like enterprise or billion-dollar brand, that was not an area where that audience engages in the same way. And so if we wanted to take our successes and replicate it in that market and really double down in account-based marketing, we thought we really have to do something that's unique, and different here. And that was what happened. So I think it really all depends on who your audience is. But I think when account-based marketing is a part of it, you can be so much more nuanced in terms of what's delivered. You can put a handwritten note in here. You can put something very specific about what you
Mhm.
want to do. And I know lots of agencies try all sorts of different things, but that personalization, I think, is a huge, huge, huge benefit that you can do when you're very specific about what that audience is. A top
Mhm.
100, for instance. I mean, you can really spend the year kicking your tires on, okay, how do we want to reach this pocket? All right, let's flight a outreach to just this top 25. And it doesn't mean that you're not still maybe running your always on digital outreach or your traditional ads or your product and service. I think both are there. But just like anything for a client, if you have that like brand promise out there from a advertising perspective, it makes those other digital ads that you're running that maybe are a little more transactional work harder, whether it's retargeting for your site or it's other things that you're running to promote what you're doing out there.
Yeah. Out of curiosity for the numbers, how many packages did you send?
We're probably, you're putting me on the spot here, but I would say probably over 150. And Yeah, probably over about 150, probably about 75 of the big kits before we switched into the Breakup Kit
Yeah.
minis. We still send
Yeah.
both out. We send the huge boxes to the larger brands or ones we feel like we have a personal in with, just because it's so outrageously large. But I will tell you from the data that we have not seen any difference in engagement, whether we send the big one versus the little one. That was another test we wanted to see,
Hmm.
which is like, can we scale it down? The smaller kit has like a cassette tape in it. Again, nobody has a cassette player that's sitting at their desk. So there's a little bit of a novelty there. Someone's showing someone else in marketing, like, hey, have you ever watched something on VHS? Have you ever played with a cassette? So there's some fun there. You said like creating that moment. There's
Yeah.
some depth there. But yeah, I mean, it's been a decent amount of volume, but then obviously we've had thousands and hundreds of thousands of impressions on the ads themselves.
Right.
So some folks have just seen the videos, have just seen the landing page, have just seen some of the digital components. Some people have seen the digital and been like in the comments, you got to mail me one of these kits. Some of those are not necessarily ideal audience. Some of those are just
Yeah.
tire kickers, but engagement. We like engagement at all forms. A certain percent of that's going to convert. So,
Right. So with I guess what like I don't know, sample size is the right word. Like, what was your initial send before you were like, okay, this is something we need to like go all in on,
so
testing size?
the first flight was 25 boxes, which I would say is probably a little bit low. If I was advising somebody else, I would say you'd start with 50. But we did within that first 25, like, know we were on to something. But again, a lot of what we were on to in that first flight was, this is the most creative thing that we've seen. This is crazy. I don't have any needs now, but
Right.
wow, this is really cool. Now, if you can get that aspirational audience to just return a message, you got to consider that a success.
Mhm.
Then you start to say, okay, well, what are we modeling here? Do we need to bring the brand size down, or do we want to do something more specialized? Um, I know right now we're in the process of like a final stage, final round pitch with a brand that we sent a kit to over a year ago. So they didn't have anything then. They thought of us when it was RFP time, and then they included us in the process. So it's not it's a longer game than a quick convert, again, because like you said before, it's all about when the timing of that message is. But if you can create enough of that moment with them, a badass first impression,
Right.
then it can have some staying power.
Yeah. Do you ever run similar like ABM type campaigns for clients? Like maybe not running the ad piece, but doing this type of creative?
We do. We one of the more recent ones that we're running right now. It's a SaaS company, so like it's software as a service. It's in the cloud. Like what's the physical component to that? What would you even mail? So we
Mhm.
actually designed this box. It looks like it was made in Cupertino by Apple, but it just says helping hands on it. You see these like digital hands. It looks like robot hands. And we were like, all right, well, if we're going to mail them something, what can we do that actually makes it interesting? So the box is like hollowed out. There's a sheet of wood in the back, so it actually feels like when you get it mailed to you, there's something here. There's a lot in here. We were like, what is it? It says the product name on the cover. When you flip it open, all that's there is a QR code. So you're actually sending them like almost nothing, and like
Mhm.
priming them to say, well, this is really odd. I'm super curious to know more. That's also been really, really successful. And I think we have, like, for a portfolio of clients, a lot of different account based marketing stuff that we've done that's usually always a blend of mail, so that direct mail component, and a digital component. Because again, you don't know if mailing them the box, if it's just going to sit on their desk, but it's going to sit on their desk for a little while. And then they see an ad for that product a little later. They're going to make a connection, and you're going to increase the likelihood of engagement. And again, for some of these brands, there's some SDR that's maybe doing some cold calling, cold outreach to sort of blend that. So it's the digital marketing plus the sales enablement to kind of tie it all together.
Right. You're doing a multi-channel hit on, right. You're not just relying on one thing. It's that time of year, you know.
It is that time of year, I
know. What are the mistake if you were recommending that someone does take like an ABM play like this, where they're sending an actual package and not, to someone? What are some of those mistakes that they would likely make that you could easily just, hey, don't do this?
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing is keep the message really simple. When you're building a campaign off of an insight, sometimes it's easy to think of like 5 or 6 or a few different ways you want to do it, or get really excited about, oh, well, it could work for this, 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 and this. If you have like refined your message and you've refined your audience and you still have a few key verticals that you're in, maybe it only works in one. Maybe you just really focus on one, so that when you send your first flight or you start your campaign, you're going to get the clearest picture of how it works and resonates. On the flip side of that, maybe you want to go broader. Maybe you want to do a few markets because you want to see, seasonality can have an impact in a market, right? So maybe you need to do that. But I think get clear on your test and get laser focused on what that message is around a problem that you solve or something associated with it. I think otherwise it can get to, it can muddy the waters. I would say also make the investment. I think the reason that this has worked for us is that every touch feels incredibly premium. The production of the videos, the boxes themselves, all of those things, each of those are an interaction with your brand. And so you want those to just feel super dialed in. And so again, sometimes these tests, you're rushed, you want to see value. I think the last thing would be, make sure once you invest in it that you're going to see it through. Just like for our clients, just for the agencies listening, their clients, we wouldn't advise a client to turn on a digital campaign and then 2 months in, they're like, oh, I didn't see anything, I think we should shut it off. You're like, no, you got to go the distance here. Maybe that's 3 months, maybe that's 6 months. So like, give a thought to what your commitment is and how far you're going to go and what your success criteria is. Because sometimes what was your success criteria early on, it changes. You're like, oh no, I was actually expecting more from this. So you just need to be very specific with regards to that. It's the same thing that we would tell our clients, right? It's just, it's sometimes hard being the client. You're so used to setting the guardrails and structured things. And in this case, you're the client and it's your dollars, right? And so, but I think those are really important because sometimes, just like anything, right, the optimizations and the adjustments come later down the road. And so if you don't see success right away, that doesn't mean that it's not just right around the corner.
Right. How far out are you planning like the follow-up sequence with these two? Like, are you giving them a couple weeks before reaching out and then you're hitting them up and, with emails, calls?
Yeah. For the Breakup Kit campaign and the direct mail, if we're thinking about that and the experience of like when the box is first arriving through to the last touch, you remember the movie The Matrix? Remember when Neo gets the package and he like rips it open and the phone starts ringing right away? I mean, that's the ideal scenario, right? You like know when UPS has arrived with the package and you're calling right away. It doesn't always happen like that, right? That would be best case. But no, you usually try to get a couple touches the first week, and then the full length of outreach usually lasts 3 to 5 weeks, depending on kind of what's going on there. I like to think of like 5 touches to 7 touches. The actual number of touches from like a data perspective is absurdly higher than what most people I think typically think. You start to get into territory of like, I think we're being annoying here. I think we've reached out too much. And so I I would challenge anyone on my team, or I would challenge anyone listening, that it's like, all right, well, stop thinking about it like you're being annoying, and make sure that each of these touches adds value. So we have thought about, for each touch, is there a secondary video? Is there a resource that we send? Is there something else? So that it's not just like we're like, hey, you up? Hey, you up? Hey, you want to talk? Um, I think that that can get annoying, and I think that that can chip away at the brand building that you're actually really trying to do. Again, that's another tightrope where you're showing them what it's like for you to work with them, and a little bit of proactiveness and follow through is good. Being annoying isn't, and they're not going to feel great about having you do their marketing or communications or brand building if it feels like that's what you're like on the other end, or what you might be
Yeah.
representing them.
So I've got a short story that you probably couldn't have set up a better segue for. I was on someone's podcast. And they asked for my address to send me a gift, and so like sent that over. And then they kept hitting me up with a just asking like, "Hey, the package arrived. Like, you excited for it?" It finally came in, small box, and it was a Matrix themed. Like, there was a blue pill, red pill in there with a QR code. Both the blue pill and red pill first. This was where it was a little concerning. They were both like, they were chocolates, little balls. One
Okay.
was wrapped in red foil, one in blue foil, but they were both like a little open. So it was like, okay, well, let's toss those. But I did watch the video, which was incredibly cheesy, and like that may have landed, I guess, for some people. But it was like founder of the company dressed as Morpheus, talking like, "How do you want to do this?"
Oh, geez.
but but the amount of follow up they got me, where they were almost like playing up that this box was more important in my life than it ever even could be. I mean, this was for like video marketing services, and it was it I think at some point I did actually block the emails, because like even when I
Oh,
said, "Hey guys, I'm
geez.
not interested," it's not good. They just kept coming, and so like there is probably a point of where it is some borderline harassment. They probably hit that, but I didn't need a restraining order. Blocking worked. The But like I think it was also like the quality of the box didn't, like, if it had been if it felt more premium, more professional,
Yeah.
I might have actually just gone with it more to like see what it was, but it felt not fully thought through. And it was just like, oh, here's like a quirky thing we can do to like get in front of you.
Well, it sounds like
And
it's
so,
both a little bit cheap, in the sense
yeah,
of
no, that's
like
exactly it.
production wasn't all the way there, or maybe they overdid it on the joke. Um,
Hmm.
like, again, if you're going to use humor, that's not like a cheat code. It's hard to get good humor. I mean, we had a comedy director on set when we did this, and really worked with the actors to like show the right dynamic range. Um,
Hmm.
because I think if you saw like the first few scenes that we shot, if you tried to cut that together and add some music and VO, it just would have felt kind of flat. So there's just,
Hmm.
comedy is not easy. If it's done well, you love it, and it can do a lot. And there's a reason that you don't see more humor used in B2B.
Right. Yeah, it is definitely hard to to be funny. So, um, all right, Thomas, as we wind down here, I got two more questions for you. With the first one being, what book do you recommend every agency owner should read?
So, are you familiar with Meditations by Marcus Aurelius?
Marcus Aurelius?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is that one that you hear very often?
Not for agency owners, no.
So I think that there are too many business books out there. There's books about like grow or die, and there's just this ever changing
Mhm.
expectation of all these systems you can use and things you can tackle. For me, in the reading collection, I think sometimes it's mindfulness, and perspective. And I think a book like that reminds us that even on our hardest days, when maybe it's a little challenging to get out of bed, or put one foot in front of the other. I'm a new dad. I got a 1 year old, and last night he probably woke us up 3 or 4 times, right? So sometimes that next day you're like, oh man, I got to get back in. I got to do these 5 things. And whether it's sales or business development or running the company, sometimes you just need a little bit of extra gas in the tank. And I think that's a great book, just to provide perspective that sometimes
Yeah.
the challenges we experience today, if we were to zoom out, and there's all this content online, they're like, the problem you have today 100 years from now isn't a problem at all, because you're gone and you're in the ground. And so I think it's a great book for that. I think that
Yeah.
be curious to hear what other books to share. Maybe that's a conversation for another day, Chris.
Yeah, there's, I mean, a whole slew of them. I think what I like about meditations is that, like, especially as an agency owner, you're often the constraint of the business,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're just like, you can't be level headed during certain times, right? You're emotionally driven in certain decision making, things like that. It's like you need something to be able to like ground yourself and be able to, I don't know, have that stoic, I guess, philosophy to be able to drive your business forward. So it is great that like books for recommendations, I guess, for agency owners can be all over the place,
Oh yeah.
where like it doesn't just have to be about the business side. And so, yeah, that's a perfect example. Last question for you though: where can people find you?
So I have a podcast called Brand to Brand for the agency. My agency is Stirling Brandworks. If you want to check out our work, we're based just north of Boston. And outside of that, I mean, I'm a consummate networker and brand builder, and you can find me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. All right, Thomas, thanks for joining.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Chris. Have a great day. All right.
That's the show, everyone. You can leave a rating and review, or you can do something that benefits you. Click the link in the show notes to subscribe to Agency Forward on Substack. You'll get weekly content, resources, and links from around the internet to help you drive your agency forward.